Hello, everyone. My name is Karin Brunnemann. I'm the mission commander of mission 126 Carsons at Habitat Marte, which is a very special mission because for the first time we have 7 participants from 7 different countries and I think 3 continents. So it's really a very global mission. And this mission is focusing on Mars-on-Out trainings, which trainings will analog astronauts need to prepare for Mars, and which trainings will the people need once they finally go to Mars. My topic for today is psychological training, and especially space psychology. And there are multiple ways to define space psychology. Some say the application of psychological procedures to the problems of humans functioning in outer space, or it's a science of the influence of the space environment on humans. It's the investigation of pre-flight preparation, well-being during spaceflight, and reintegration after spaceflight. I think it's a bit of everything, actually. So it's a quite wide field because psychology has to do with how humans feel, how we behave, how we think, how we perform. And of course, if we are looking at really going to Mars, astronauts will face a lot of psychological challenges when going to space. And the longer term we stay in space and the longer distance we go, the more challenges there are. And the crews will have to master these challenges and grow on them. And it's very important that the crews understand how to maintain their own psychological well-being, but also how to recognize symptoms in the colleague. So if a colleague is not feeling well, then somebody should be able to recognize it if they don't recognize it themselves. Yeah. If we look at the field of space psychology, this is not even the entire field. Yeah, so we have positive psychology, culture, human-machine interaction, crew selection, learning, conflict management, crisis, design for well-being, creativity, problem solving, how to manage workload, cognitive functioning, process experience, isolation, psychological first aid, which you would have to learn, adaptation to the new environment, and how to spend the free time, and many, many more areas. And today, I will look at how we can train astronauts in managing conflict, because conflict is, of course, it happens all the time in daily life, and it can have a severe impact on crew well-being and performance. So managing conflict in a constructive way is an essential skill for all the crew going to space, but also for the mission support center, mission control, operational support, etc., etc. It's omnipresent, but looking into it, what really is a conflict, and how can conflict arise in spaceflight, and how do we recognize, analyze, and manage it? And again, there are a multitude of definitions of what is conflict. Some say it's an argument, it's a disagreement, it's a clash, it's a difference in opinion, and many more. And there is not really an official definition of conflict. In general, conflicts have some characteristics. They have a cause. There is a reason for a conflict, and this cause can be real or it can be perceived. It's enough if I think somebody wants to do something bad to me. Yeah, it doesn't have to be reality, but it can still cause a conflict. Also, conflicts have a course. Yeah, a conflict is not something static, it's active, it's a process, it can escalate, it can de-escalate. Yeah, it can grow cold, it can grow from cold to hot, etc. So it's nothing static. Yeah, and all conflicts have a minimum of two social actors. They can be natural persons or legal entities. Yeah, in theory, NASA could have a conflict with ESA, for example. I hope not. But it doesn't need a natural person to have a conflict. And there can, of course, be more than two actors. Yeah, there can, yeah, in theory, all 7 of us in this mission, we can all have a conflict among us. Yeah, but it has to be a minimum of 2 actors. I can't have a conflict with myself, basically. Yeah. And if we look what causes conflict, yeah, we have motivational forces that can lead to goal incompatibility. Yeah, that can be real or perceived. Yeah, if, for example, my goal is to be the first person on the moon, yeah, or the first woman on the moon, and Nitya also said, I want to be the first person on the moon, the first woman on the moon. Then we have a goal conflict. Yeah, we cannot be both the first woman on the moon. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be real. I can just think I want to be the first person on the moon, and I think that Nitya also wants to be. Yeah, and maybe she's not even interested. Yeah, so this can lead to conflict. And what can also lead to conflict is shared resources. And this is very critical because on Mars, we will have a very, very limited amount of resources. Yeah, so if I want to have the last chocolate muffin, and somebody else also wants to have the last chocolate muffin, yeah, we can cut it in half, but nobody gets a full chocolate muffin. Yeah, and again, it can be real or perceived, and it can also be interdependent activities. Yeah, if, for example, I run an experiment, and for my experiment, I need 2 people to run it, and one doesn't really do what they have to do. Yeah, that can also lead to conflict. Yeah, so it's basically the root causes can be motivational, conflict, shared resources, yeah, and interdependent activities. These 3 root causes can really lead to conflict ultimately. Yeah, and if I had to suggest a conflict management training for an analog mission, yeah, I would start with half an hour introduction to conflict management. Yeah, what is a conflict? How does conflict come about? Why do we have conflict, etc., etc. Then I would continue with analyzing the conflict. Yeah, what kind of conflict is it? Is it a constructive conflict or a destructive conflict? What's the conflict about? Yeah, is it about resources, about motivation? Yeah, is it a conflict of values? Is it a hot conflict or a cold conflict? And I would spend about 1 hour on this topic, and then I would spend another 2 hours on training about conflict escalation and de-escalation. Now, what are the phases of conflict escalation? How does conflict escalate? How can I de-escalate a conflict? At which stage can I go for a win-win situation? Yeah, win-win solution. When is that not possible? and a lot of topics in these areas. Then I would have a module avoiding conflict, yeah, and I would go into when it is good to avoid conflict and when it's better not to avoid it and to actually live the conflict and resolve it. Not all conflicts should be avoided. Some types of conflicts should actually be avoided. And then, of course, I would spend some time on giving the participants tools how to resolve a conflict. Yeah, what can I do? Which options do I have? And would go into details in this area. I would also spend some time on cultural aspects of conflict management, because we can assume that the first crew going to Mars, just like our team now in this mission, we are very culturally diverse. Yeah, we're different nationalities, different ages, different professions, different gender, different everything, and yet we have a common goal. And there is some aspects to conflict management that are really closely linked to the culture of certain people and groups. And I would conclude my training with some exercises of application to practice. This is a total of 8 hours. Yeah, this is what I would suggest for an analog mission. Going to Mars, I would spend a lot more hours on conflict management training, because it's we can't really have much conflict, especially unresolved conflicts when we are on Mars. This can easily lead to major disaster. Training duration, as I already pointed out, this interactive training I would suggest for 8 hours. This can be distributed across several days. Yeah, it doesn't have to be one full day. It can be spread over 2 months, and we do 1 hour every week, you know, something like that. In addition to this interactive training, I would give the participants some reading material, and especially the book of William Ury, The Third Side, Why We Fight and How We Can Stop. That's actually very interesting for those interested in conflict management. Now, the training can be delivered online or in person. Teaching style should be constructive and should include a lot of exercises, and there should be an exam at the end of the training. For analog astronauts, it should be rather short, but just to see that everybody is in line with the goals of the training. Success factors. For this training to be successful, I would include findings from previous analog space missions, from missions to real space, from expeditions to extreme environments on Earth, like to the North and South Pole, to Mount Everest, underwater, etc. I would create a psychologically safe environment for the training participants. Yeah, for example, they want to share their experience with conflicts, their personal experience. Yeah, I have to give them some sort of anonymity and make sure that whatever happens in the training stays in the training and is not published anywhere. So I would never record such a training and then upload it to YouTube, because that would seriously compromise the personal space of the participants. Yeah, I would aim for continuous improvement of the training. I would ask the participants for feedback. I would constantly research new findings in the area, new academic articles, publications, etc. And I would definitely include case studies from real conflicts in space exploration. So this, I would say, are the main factors of making such a training successful. Potential obstacles can be that not all training can closely simulate the situation on Mars. Yeah, we might be more stressed and more inclined to conflict once we're far away from Earth. Yeah, we don't have this balancing element of going for a walk in the forest with our family in the evening. Yeah, also as we have seen, shared resources can lead to conflict, and on Earth we normally have sufficient resources, so we would really have to deprive the analog astronauts in their training from some resources. Yeah. We have a distinct lack of trainers with the necessary experience. That is, like, the trainers have to be trainers and not just know about the subject matter, but they also have to have experience in the space industry. And there can be a lack of trust in the training process from the participants. Yeah, worries that information will be shared or will be used against them or something like that. So these are potential obstacles to the success of such a training. If we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, yeah, such conflict management training can contribute to goal number 3, good health. Yeah, living and working in an environment with well-managed conflict will contribute to overall health and well-being also on Earth. And especially we've seen during the COVID lockdowns, we've seen an increase, for example, in domestic violence. Yeah, because people were all of a sudden confined in a small space and they couldn't go out as they wanted. So conflict management training can also, especially in such situations on Earth, but also in normal workplace situations, help conflicts to be resolved instead of escalated, which then leads to our well-being. And this training contributes to goal number 4, which is quality education. Yeah, conflicts, they can arise in our daily lives, at home, at work, anywhere. And for that, it's really surprising that not many schools actually teach children conflict management skills. So it would be really beneficial if we can get this into the education system as such, and get as many people trained as possible. And maybe space is just has this cool factor that people want to know what the astronauts know. So it can be an incentive to learn about these things. Yeah, with that, I would like to conclude my presentation for today. Short excursion into the space psychology training. These are my contact details. And yeah, we have a reference, very interesting reading as well. I can recommend it. So thank you very much. And yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for your interest in this topic.